Greg Cote of the Miami Herald has announced to everyone here that we are the biggest and best radio show in America on Tuesdays.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Greg Cote of the Miami Herald in with us all show today. Pat Riley talked a lot yesterday, and I don't know that anything that he said needs to be said. We kind of know everything that he said, right? That everyone's in play, and they've got a bunch of good to great players, which means they don't have any great players.
Mm-hmm. Right. I mean, he did say we talked about it yesterday before the press conference. He did say that he has no urge to retire, that he's sticking around. I mean, I think Heat fans enjoyed hearing that.
Okay.
I think.
I don't know. Do they?
I think.
Most of them. Not all.
Call my father. Mike, call my father. And let's take our chances with this here. And again, with the dump button, be careful. We're going to call my father.
And the last few times.
My father has turned on everyone in the organization.
Really?
Everyone. He has turned the Miami Heat into something he loves and hates. He's blaming everybody.
Mm-hmm. Well, it started with all that air and the bags of chips. You know, if the Heat would have taken care of that, he'd have fallen in line.
Mickey Aaron chips.
Exactly.
What? What?
It's old, man.
So Dwayne Wade defends the Heat fan base against the attacks of that Ilyasova.
How'd he do last night?
Ilyasova was a non-factor last night. How'd Wade do last night?
Good point. 3 rings. How many does Ilyasova have?
Hello?
Bobby.
Jimmy.
Can you tell me your opinion on Pat Riley's press conference yesterday?
Well, he says they are only 2 pieces away from a championship run. He says that the Spo and Wade are going to be leading the charge.
And so were you happy? Did he say anything that you liked to hear or not really? It was just a lot of talk.
No, I couldn't figure out, I was puzzled, really. I thought that he was ready to break up the team. I was surprised.
So what does he need to do? Because he says he'll trade everybody.
Maybe he'll get Durant and Curry. You never know. Maybe he'll send some young talent to the Golden State Warriors. I don't know.
Did we wake you up, Poppy, or are you just defeated? Are you defeated from just that press conference?
He said, I saw that game last night. A team that crushed the Heat, with all the firepower that the Heat had in 5 games, and Boston came in with a bunch of no-names, and they roll over
that's true.
Yeah,
that's true. What you're saying is true.
And then I look on the sideline. Who was on the sideline? Brad Stevens. I couldn't figure out. This is the guy that was a bump 3 years ago. He came from Butler, and he turned the whole thing around. So I don't know. Maybe he got something to do with. Maybe he just got lucky.
All right. So all right. So what are the solutions?
The solution? Well, I think that everything is up for sale. You know what I mean? Now, I heard that Whiteside was hurt since day one. Vulovic was the one that screwed his season. Now he had the Bruce knee or something like that lasted all season long. I couldn't figure that one out myself. That's what it is, buddy. So he'll be ready next season, for what I understand.
Bobby, you sound sleepy. You sound tired.
What do you want me to tell? No, I'm fine. I'm in shock.
Bobby,
I'm in shock. Yes, Stu. What's going on?
Are you happy Riley appears to be sticking around?
Yeah, well, he's the man. He's the one leading the charge. So what can I tell you?
Oh, public comments sounding slightly different than the private comments.
Yep.
No, what can I say? He must know something that we don't know. Maybe he got a couple of tricks in his bag of tricks, which I don't see. I don't see any tricks.
We don't see any tricks either. I don't know what the tricks would be, but okay.
Dion Waiters is going to be back next year. That's going to be the X factor.
Has anyone seen Dion?
That's one of the pieces.
And the other thing that influenced this season was the fact that Ronnie Magruder, he got hurt,
right.
In crunch time.
So Waiters and Magruder will fix it all of a sudden. Okay, those are the 2 missing pieces.
I don't know. I mean, I'm looking around to see if who the Celtics they got. Who they got? They got this guy. What's his name? Rozier.
Yeah.
He was on fire. Then they got this guy Tatum. He was on fire. What's this guy's name, guys?
Tatum.
You know?
Yeah.
It's not Tatum, Poppy. It's Tatum.
Nicholas Tatum.
Tatum.
You know what I mean? Tatum, like the guy.
Jason.
Fantasy Island. They playing. They remind me of
Okay,
the guy.
Tattoo from Fantasy Island. All right,
yeah.
that's enough.
Yes,
See you later,
yes,
Poppy.
yes.
Good talking to you. See you later.
All right, take care, buddy. Bye.
This
See
is
you,
a
Bobby.
very different phone call that we made to him. We weren't even pretending that we weren't a radio show. We normally just call him, and he never knows when because I call him all the time just to get him ratcheted up.
I love his maniacal laugh as he's leaving.
He was very tame, though. He has been so mad the last couple of days.
About Riley or what?
About all of it. About that they're not close.
No. And he made a good comment. You watched the game last night. Philly just steamrolled the Heat, and now Boston, without arguably its best player or second best
player. It's without three starters.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Boston
just,
without three starters.
three best
Boston
players,
going
I
to
think.
Shane Larkin as its eighth guy when Shane Larkin's Boston's 12th guy.
amazing. I mean, that's depressing if you're a Heat fan.
I didn't renew my season tickets. Yeah.
Really?
I didn't.
Wow.
I didn't. I don't see how they can dig themselves out of this. I really don't.
Not this summer. Anyway.
Also, they tried to raise my prices, so no.
They did that? Really? Without knowing whether or not you're going to get LeBron and Kawhi?
They
Bad job of the
asked
Heat.
for
Yeah.
bigger prices than the LeBron years.
Get out of here.
Yeah, man.
Maybe they know something we don't, though. I don't know.
Cody, what did you make of the Riley press conference?
I found it very interesting what came clear with the Whiteside situation. I think they're really stuck with Whiteside. You can't move that guy. Between his contract and the fact that his role is diminishing in the changing NBA, I don't think there's a real market for him. So Riley has no choice but to broker a solution because I think Riley, I mean, he grew up with big dominating centers. I think Riley still pictures Whiteside as being that. I think Riley would love to see Whiteside get 32 minutes and be a 2016 guy.
Okay, but what are you doing with the idea of this is what we've done? I remember it happened to Don Shula. Even Don Shula, winningest NFL coach of all time, it happened to Don Shula. At the end, people were talking about the game passing him by. Mm-hmm. Now, I will not ever say that this game that Pat Riley has been around and has been around regally for decades, I will not say that he can't keep up with what's happening in basketball. But structurally, what has happened in basketball since Spo went positionless and now they go to three-point shots all over the place where the game has changed so much that what James Harden does is something I simply don't recognize, which is it's probing so that he could take the steps back, and it's always there for him. Like backward shooting a three is always there for him. And then I see last night Embiid is sitting there shooting threes from the top of the key. And I'm looking at how the Heat are built, and they're a 500 team in every way. Mm-hmm. But they've given their max money to a guy who, while he can help you, it seems increasingly clear that in basketball at this point, the way that he can help you is as a compliment. And compliments can't be tying up your maxes.
Right.
Like that you cannot trust Hassan Whiteside to be the centerpiece of your building.
He can't be the best guy on your team ever.
Not in today's NBA. In this sport, but
No.
a guy who won with Mourning and Ewing and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, that's if you're going to file that accusation, I will never do it.
Right.
But if you're going to file that accusation, that's where your arguments start.
But he also won with LeBron, Wade, and Bosh. Like, Riley knows. He knows what
yes,
today's NBA
I know,
is.
but now they're stuck with this, Stugotz.
I know.
Yeah,
I mean, he
they
is
are
saying
stuck.
flatly the one thing that he said, that Pat Riley said, and that Hassan had a bad year. He said it flatly. Like, I don't know that I've heard that from him very often, singling out a player and saying it that boldly.
And
How
also,
do we make him effective? That's what it is. How can he make himself effective? And to do the things that he needs to do, defend, rebound, shot blocking, all of those things that he did that we fell in love with the first year and the second year, he had a bad year this year. And so he's got to come back strong next year, and I'm going to try to help him as much as I can. I'm going to try to help the both of them come together so we can keep him on the court 30 minutes a game. But he's got to help himself.
That soundbite right there. I mean, Pat Riley's getting to the age where, Gordon Hayward doesn't really remember Pat Riley for what he did as a head coach. He just knows him as this godfather figure. At what point, when you start stacking failures, and not just off-season failures, but on-the-court failures, does that just sound a little kooky? Does that start sounding like Al Davis? I'm going to help them figure it out.
Oh, but Pat Riley, don't do that to Pat Riley. But he has been poet-philosopher for a long time around here. When he's atop the sport and winning, it sounds like poetry and philosophy. And when he's losing in the first round in 5 games, it sounds like gibberish.
I still think he's a guy who can kind of mend relationships. Right? There's clearly a rift there with Spo and Hassan Whiteside. And Riley's a guy who can come in and help them, solve that.
The rift is that Hassan's a meathead, man. Like, that's the rift. It ain't a rift. It's that they've given their max to a meathead.
They gave him the money.
Agreed.
Eric Spoelstra and Pat Riley decided to give him the money.
Agreed.
Coach him.
Okay.
Seriously.
Thanks. No, but thanks, Stugotz. Okay.
No, I don't want to hear that he's not ready for the postseason. He was ready for the postseason. He didn't get much of a chance in the postseason. And this season, when you look at the stats, kind of compared to what he did the last 2 years. I'm sorry, Dan, they do.
There's a rift of sorts between Riley and Spoelstra if one thinks that Hassan's role should be just so much bigger than the other one thinks. That's a gulf that those two need to broker. And the other thing that's interesting to me is that Riley is going public with his criticism of the most sensitive player in the NBA. How does Whiteside hear that when Riley is in a State of the Union address saying he had a bad season? He wasn't mentally ready for the playoffs.
There is a generational problem that they have here between Hassan Whiteside and what he may need in terms of coddling and Pat Riley, who used to give his players, when he wanted to reach them, letters he'd put under their door instead of talking to them because he liked that professional distance. The idea that Pat Riley and Eric Spoelstra, it must be offensive to them. The idea that they would have to kowtow to the sensitive center who's playing 10 minutes a game as they're getting eliminated must be infuriating to them.
Yeah, you don't need a godfather that'll write a letter. You need a godfather that'll send a snap.
Yeah.
And yes, that's the only way that
he communicates in SpongeBob memes.
Yeah, that Whiteside will see it. Look, man, I don't know what you do about this dude. We've been talking about him for 3 years. I don't know who the Heat is more disappointed by. Like, if you went up to them and said, who bums you out more, Waiters or Whiteside? Like, just Waiters or Whiteside? Everything that happened there, because one of them was available to you, but had a bad year and was inefficient. The other one wasn't available to you and looks like he just did everything right the last year to get to the contract so that he can then take care of his body, which I get. It's remarkable. I can't believe that the Miami Heat were outsmarted by Dion Waiters and Hassan Whiteside. I can't believe that that's a thing that happened.
Right.
I saw it happen. It happened in real time. I didn't see what kind of choices they had, but that's what you've got right now. You've got a team, Hassan Whiteside and Dion Waiters. That's where you are.
Like, the worst fears, what people thought about them before giving them the big money, it's all coming to fruition.
Explain to me how it can be worse than the one guy you've ever heard in the Heat locker room who's totally okay, given the quotes that make media relations drag him out of the interviews, and the other guy who next time you see him is going to be 312 pounds.
And the scary thing is, I'm not entirely sure who you're talking about.
Yeah, who?
Hi, everyone. Stugotz here. Support for the Dan Le Batard Show podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, and your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. With Rocket Mortgage, you can apply simply and understand fully so you can mortgage confidently. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Stugotz, STUGOTZ. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLSconsumeraccess.org number 3030.
Dan Le Batard.
The reason Stugotz is tired is because He is using every available outlet to, at all times, spew his sports opinions. He comes in here, I look up, and by way of hello, I've got his phone in my face recording me, asking me for opinions on things because he is insatiable.
Stugotz.
Yeah, I'm on television right now. This is the pizza. Oh, this is delicious. This is so good. Let me walk outside. Let me get on Facebook Live and Twitter Live. These are the peanut M&Ms. Oh, I forgot something. Let me go over here and grab a selfie stick. Let's do Facebook Live today. It's Facebook Live Friday.
It's all for the show, man.
That's what, yeah.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on the ticket.
I was misrepresented last segment because the point that I made about Al Davis, people just heard Al Davis and assumed I was calling Pat Riley already Al Davis. I was merely asking a question, and I think the part that you ignored was, did you see that press conference? You could sort of take what he said as shade towards Eric Spoelstra. No, I need to come down from on high. He essentially needs to meddle. Now, that's a negative point of view, but it's an aspect that he left himself susceptible to by those comments. They don't have a Discord, but they do need an intervention, and I need to be one. I know that's what his role is, but when you stop stacking success upon success, that could be looked at as a meddling basketball czar.
Well, it's not a meddling basketball
He's earned
czar.
the right.
But he's the president. He's the power broker. He's the guy who gave him this job. He's the guy who gave him this career. He's the guy who gives Spoelstra. He's the guy who gives Spoelstra job security now. Like, he's the one who does all these things. And what I will tell you, and this is not surprising, this happens anywhere you'll find relationships. It happens between me and Cody. It happens between me and Stugotz. It happens between me and Mike. Like, these are uneasy tensions. Of course Riley thinks he could do it better. Why wouldn't Riley think he can do everything better than anyone? And so I get annoyed by my father once a show. Like, Riley is like Spo's basketball dad. Like, he raised him from the video room to LeBron.
Right.
And sometimes Riley shows up at his hotel door with a bottle of wine, and Spo doesn't want to open the door. Go away. I'm working on something.
Right.
Like, it's a family relationship, very much. Riley right now is a literal grandfather to his own kids, and now that Spo's having kids, he's a grandfather. He's a basketball grandfather there as well.
Do you think working on something is just an excuse? Like, I understand that. You don't want Riley coming in with a couple of bottles of wine and then he takes you, for a trip along the 80s. Like, you don't want that because that's where the conversation starts.
Some cats
back in 1980.
It's some cats in the cradle bleep, man.
I mean, there was a whole aspect of saying when he coached, like, he made sure his stars got their shots and kind of throwing some shade at analytics and Spo's involvement there.
I can assure you that the rest of the members of the Heat organization get a little uneasy when Pat gets in front of the microphones, no matter how great he's been at it all of these years, because things can be said when he gets to talking that cause problems in some places where he might not be looking.
And that's part of the reason why Tim Donovan, one of his right-hand men, always sits in on major interviews he does. But it would be human nature for Pat Riley to think, and I think for Mickey Arison to feel, why aren't we getting our money's worth out of this guy, Hassan Whiteside? Why is he playing 12 minutes a game? That's a natural question to ask Eric Spoelstra.
Yes, but can I ask you guys this question? When it came to the blueprint, how much forgiveness are you willing to give for the fact that Bosch was supposed to be here? Like, how much are you willing to extend to the idea that at various points here they were trying to get Bosch back,
right? And
now all of a sudden, Hassan next to that is something that bothers both the Warriors and even the Sixers last night. If you saw what was happening with the bigs.
Yeah, Bosch's game would have aged so well. With the evolution the NBA's taken, that series is totally different if you have Bosch matching up against Joel Embiid.
But can you help me understand, when you guys get to questioning, I'm not going to question Pat Riley, even though I see what's right in front of you right now, and it looks doomed because it's 500, overachieving, maxed out. You need players who are better than your best players, multiple players better than your best players. And you have no assets to acquire it in the draft because you've been win now. All of that paints a bleak picture for their future. where Mike Ryan's not renewing his season tickets because he doesn't believe, and maybe for the first time, doesn't believe that Pat Riley is going to get this turned around for next season.
I don't see how he can, particularly this coming summer. I mean, if you're Kawhi Leonard, why on earth would you come to the Heat right now? If
he comes with LeBron.
Also, you don't have a choice in the matter, I don't think.
Guys, I don't know how you're doing that one, Stugotz. Like, you got to make so many salaries match up, and
it's not my job to know how to do it. Okay. It's Riley's job, and I trust him.
I trust him. You know what? Riley sort of did that when talking about Wayne Ellington, about how bringing him back takes him over the luxury tax threshold, and he's like, if I do that, that guy over there, while pointing to Ellisburg, has 15 months to dig us out of it.
You mentioned Wayne Ellington, and you're now going to see, I mean, good God, the Sixers were terrible last night. They didn't make their threes. Ilyasova, Bellinelli looked like they've looked every time you've ever seen them outside of the last 5 games against Miami.
Why couldn't we get that 6?
Well, but what I was thinking to myself is, good God, can you imagine Wayne Ellington playing with Joel Embiid and Simmons? Because
that's really what the Sixers need to do moving forward.
Well, they've got Redick. I mean, J.J. Redick is filling that role.
No, just surround those two with shooters. That's it. I mean, just shooters.
Wayne Ellington is such a special shooter. Set the NBA record for most threes off the bench in an NBA season this year. I'm not really sure what happened. I kept saying to myself, the Heat are going to get an Ellington game this series, and it just never came.
Mike, what happened is you do not have enough great players. Mm-hmm. And so Ellington can't get the shots that Bellinelli and Ilyasova were getting because they haven't beaten Simmons.
I am enjoying this discourse we're having right now because you seem to think that there was nothing problematic there. I'm sort of noticing. I think that was like the most problematic postseason State of the Union address that he's had since Smiling Faces Hidden Agendas.
I know, agreed, but this is what I would say to you. It's because they're having the press conference after the first round. The last time we were dealing with this, Dwayne Wade announced, I'm never leaving in the first round again, and then LeBron was here. That's how that happened. And what happened? Dwayne Wade's out on his ass, first round again. And the reason all of that feels like that is because what they're talking about is outside of Alonzo Mourning's kidney issues, this is the worst Heat experience that you just had. Locked up in contracts, out of the first round, you're not close. Like, we haven't had a lot of that here. Riley, you remember how many times we talked about the idea that Riley kept reinventing the Miami Heat as the Atlanta Hawks stayed stagnant, where the Atlanta Hawks were the Miami Heat, and then they couldn't get any better. And Riley kept doing it with Tim Hardaway, with Alonzo Mourning, kept flipping it over. I'm like, it's not that easy to do. Look at the hole Sacramento's been in for God knows how long. It's not that easy to keep reinventing it. But now, this particular situation feels more hopeless than any, because you can see clearly what you're looking out on the floor. That's not good enough, and it's not good enough to bring us back return.
Not only did they get dominated in the first round, but the contrast between Joel Embiid and Whiteside was just astonishing and demoralizing if you're a Heat fan, seeing your highest paid player just completely disappear to irrelevance while seeing a younger, bigger, better Joel Embiid get ready to take over the league.
I think, Dan, can you make this argument, all things considered? The money they gave to Whiteside, what happened to Bosh, that this isn't, it's bad, right? Like, you can't see the future, but the current team they have now, what they did this year, is about as good as they could have done.
Well, but this is the thing, though. This has been the deterioration of the Miami Heat since LeBron left. It is a series of not best options settling for something. That's how you get stuck with Whiteside. It's how you get stuck with waiters. You look around and you're like, what are we going to get that's better? What are we going to get with this money right now in this free agent class that's better? Because, guys, we lived this, man. It's so easy right now to take these games, this first round, and say, the Heat don't know what they're doing. Fire Spo. Riley sounds like a yammering loon in his press conference. But all of us, when we were in it, all of us were arguing about, do you give Whiteside the money? Do you give waiters the money? No, nobody was coming with conviction. We've been talking for 2 years around here. Are you crazy building culture around Whiteside and waiters? Does that sound like a good idea to anybody? And we all signed off on it. It's easy to play the result now. I'm sure Cody wrote columns about it. I'm sure that when the Heat signed all those 4-year contracts and Tyler Johnson, I'm sure there wasn't criticism then, but it's here now.
Yeah, we always had the faith that, okay, if it goes poorly, we can flip those contracts. And now it's getting to the point where, can they flip these contracts?
Correct. They can't flip the Tyler Johnson contract.
No. Tyler Johnson and Whiteside are just tough to get rid of. They need a star player, and that's oversimplifying it, but the makeup that they have right now, the depth they have, the bench they have is fine if you have one dominant player. Dragic can't be your best player. He just can't be.
You can't be watching what's happening right now with Boston, where the guys they have out are better than anyone you have. Maybe the three of them. I mean, are better than anyone you have.
The guys they have in are better than.
No, but
that's the most frustrating.
You'd rather
part.
have Jason Tatum than any guy on the Heat team.
The most frustrating part about those guys being out is their assets on the roster. They're just increasing in value. Scary Terry Rozier is now all of a sudden a player you can throw in a deal for a superstar, and people won't say, "Hey, that's crazy."
They're doing the same thing with Rozier that they did with Isaiah Thomas. It's fascinating to watch it happen as the usage rate goes up, and this guy makes 7 of 9 shots yesterday, and all of a sudden is terrifying and is just wiping the floor with Eric Bledsoe in the last round. But that's the part right now. The part that's stark and is a perception hit for the franchise is that Boston and Philadelphia, the two tradition teams, while you were winning and building and being win now, they built up a fortress that you can't catch from here because they're younger than you are, and you're sending out to the press conference the godfather, the grandfather, and they're younger than you are, and they're more talented in a way that everyone can see. And even your best players, your James Johnsons, your Hassans, your Goran Dragic's, if they give you the output of those Sixers and Celtics, they're still doing it 8 years older. Like, you can see, it's right in your face. This old thing the Miami Heat have has been toppled by the teams that are playing after you. You're watching their games on television, arguing with Ilyasova. Your star is arguing with Ilyasova on Twitter while Ilyasova plays in a basketball game because the Sixers all around him are young.
I'm a one-trick pony, literally. I show up at kids' parties and act cute. That's pretty much it. So excuse me for being bitter. When Geico says not only could we save you money on car insurance, but we do more. Like give you 24/7 access online, over the phone, or even via our award-winning mobile app. Well, ooh la la, aren't they multi-talented? Hey, I said organic carrots.
Geico. Expect great savings and a whole lot more.
Don Le Batard.
Hey, gravy vampire.
I'll stop laughing at these. I'm sorry.
Gravy vampire is good, right?
Stugotz.
I don't even know what it means exactly. Like, what am I doing? Am I just showing up while you're eating gravy and I wait for you to consume it and then I attack your neck so I can get the gravy as it goes down?
You suck the gravy out of people.
Right. Okay, but I wait. I just hang out at like Golden Corral waiting for people to put extra gravy. Like, how does this extraordinarily niche vampire work?
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on the ticket.
Okay. I know that we've talked a lot of Heat basketball this hour, and they're not playing any meaningful games anymore. And a couple weeks ago, I got really mad at Billy and the crew for talking Marlins baseball when their season didn't matter. And Miami Heat were headed into big. Miami Heat were headed into big games, but now Marlins fan is laughing at Heat fan because Heat fan is no longer playing any sort of basketball, and Pat Riley's having these weird postseason press conferences that may be doing more harm than good. So go ahead, gloat, because Billy, you support the hottest team in the league.
Oh yeah. Well, I don't know about that. 5 out of 6. We own Jake Arrieta. There. I said it. We own Jake Arrieta. 2 losses on the season, both to the Marlins. I don't know what's going on with this team. I don't know what's going on with me. Because they're doing well now, but they're not doing well enough that they're going to actually do well. And they're not doing bad enough that they're going to get a good pick. So we somehow have stumbled right into the same place we're always at. and no one's going.
This is the worst possible outcome for this season. If they somehow end up as a middle-of-the-pack team, then I'm not really sure what the plan is, because it was all about tanking while saying you weren't tanking. And if you actually adopt this Derek Jeter philosophy of trying to win every game because there's no excuse when you take the field, you can do anything with will, and they actually buy into that, then this whole thing is in real big trouble.
If they're a middle-of-the-pack team, that means Jeter was right, that means I was right, that means Billy was wrong, and that this is all going to pan out.
No, it's not. No, because the plan is to rebuild. You have to be bad to rebuild. Their farm system is still not good. It got better, but they're still middle of the pack, so they still don't have lots of reinforcements. And a lot of those people are playing in the majors now, so I don't know how much better we actually are than we were before. We're just cheaper.
Also, this isn't the NBA. You can absolutely build up a farm system if you're drafting at the bottom of the first round. Yes. The Yankees had a really strong minor league system, and they had, one bad year? Yeah. That was done over years of good scouting, good player development, and good drafting. You don't need to be atop the draft. That's the thing with baseball, especially considering the high school kids that get taken in the 30th round. There's a million rounds in a Major League Baseball draft. That's why I don't think tanking is the appropriate strategy in that sport, because tanking doesn't guarantee success, because high draft picks don't guarantee success.
Yeah, it's more unpredictable than even like football. People say that you can't tell a good quarterback. Baseball is the hardest of all the sports to project talent.
Here's the good news. Wei-Yin Chen is back, and Dan Straley is back. So this ship has been righted?
Has it, though? So you're watching these games now, and it's, sometimes.
Everybody's doing the fish.
Wow. Yeah. Everybody's doing the fish. Yeah.
So on the air, you seem pretty conflicted. So when you're watching sometimes, what are you rooting for? Are you still rooting for the uniform?
Oh, no, I mean, I was happy they won yesterday. I get happy when they win. I laugh when they do bad.
That is a sweet spot. As a Browns fan, you're in the sweet spot right now.
But I'm not, because I don't want them to be terrible. I don't want them to be bad anymore. They've been bad for so long, but I don't trust that these people know what they're doing to make us good. Well, why would they know? Why would Michael Hill know how to make this better? He's made it worse for so long.
That's I don't understand about this whole teardown is that you have the guy that built up what you had to tear down still a part of the team, and there's no sort of reporting being done that he's not in their plans. I'm guessing he's going to have the opportunity to prove himself over time, which is a scary thought because I thought he had already proven himself over time.
Michael Hill is just here to tell Jeter what people's names are, okay? I'm telling you, the guy that they brought over from the Yankees, that guy is making all the important decisions. That's the guy that we should trust.
So he's a shadow GM.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Well, we do have a football expert, and we've hit on most of the teams here. And I wanted to geek out over Dolphins draft stuff, and I did a little bit yesterday, but now I have someone that's on the beat in studio with me, a bona fide Dolphins reporter. How many years of experience covering this team in this market, Greg Cote?
Since the Marino days.
So if I could speak to one person about the Miami Dolphins draft, it would be you.
Sure it would.
And I think you might be one of those people that are upset they didn't take a quarterback.
I definitely am. I've written about it a couple of times already, as a matter of fact. This team, first of all, let me preface it by saying Minkah Fitzpatrick, the Alabama safety, is going to be great. They got him at 11.
You know this?
Yes, I know.
But great at what? Because he doesn't have a defined position.
No, he doesn't. He's a safety. He can play linebacker on third downs.
Yeah, but is he great? Is he great at any of these things, or is he just a guy that can do all those things? Is he just versatile?
He's versatile. He's an undersized safety who's going to lift the defense because you can use him anywhere. I had him going fourth overall in my mock draft. He's a real talent. I think he was a great pick at 11, and also the tight end they got in the second round from Penn State.
Ooh, I don't trust Penn State tight ends.
Well,
PTSD, golden years.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. The past. This kid, it looks like Gronk. I'm not saying he's going to be Gronk.
No, I'm sold, man. Yeah, this is great. They had a great draft.
He had an incredible highlight reel. He looks like a giant person.
He does. But my only complaint about the Dolphins draft is that they should be drafting a quarterback every year, without exception. Every year they should be drafting a quarterback. Quick example. Since Marino retired after the 99 season, the Dolphins have only drafted 6 quarterbacks in the 18 drafts that followed. Bill Belichick, who's had Tom Brady the whole time, has drafted 11 quarterbacks in that time. You have to, if you want to pan for gold, you have to go mining. You can't just get a quarterback of the future by not doing anything, by using free agency and hoping. This is the 7th year now of hoping that Tannehill's good enough. That's not working. They need to draft a quarterback every year. They didn't do that, and I thought that was a weakness of the draft.
But you make a good point in saying that the Patriots, even though they've had one steady quarterback outside of one injury year where Matt Castle went in there, they've still developed quarterbacks and drafted quarterbacks, even though they've had Tom Brady there the whole time. But they have that luxury because they've always been a good team. The Dolphins don't have that luxury because they have so many holes, especially on this team, because they just nuked their core.
Right.
You can't. I don't see the validity in arguing for them to draft a quarterback when it's not a position of need for them right now.
Well, another thing they don't have the luxury of is not drafting their future at the most important position on the field. And they do need a quarterback. They need to develop the answer, is not Brock Osweiler, and the temporary answer is Tannehill. They needed a quarterback to develop. I would have loved it if they would have traded up in the first round.
So you think Tannehill is a temporary? You think Tannehill is just a placeholder and not your franchise guy?
Right. Yes.
Why?
We've had 6 years to judge Ryan Tannehill. He has a losing record. He's never won a playoff game. Now he's coming off multiple knee injuries, including major reconstructive surgery. He's about to turn 30. I think he's had a chance to prove that he's the franchise guy. A franchise quarterback lifts the whole team. He's not a passenger in the vehicle. He's driving. And
yeah, but didn't he 2 years ago, and then he just got hurt right before the playoffs? But I felt like he lifted the team. That team wasn't that good.
I don't.
And he had his best season.
He did. But his best season wasn't Pro Bowl level. I mean, his best season was, he's not bad. Yeah,
his best season was Pro Bowl level if the 3 guys were taken and in the Pro Bowl decided that they were too hurt or too tired to actually play in it.
Well, that's true. Yeah, he would have been the 5th alternate. You're right about that. But I just think you have to, if you're the Dolphins or a Dolphin fan, you have to think we need to do better than Tannehill. Tannehill's not bad. He's okay. He's an average quarterback. If you're making a list of NFL starters, he's going to fall somewhere in the 14 to 18 range, probably 14 to 20. He's not bad, but you have to do better, and you have to start drafting quarterbacks every year with the hope that one of them really hits. This was a good year to trade up, just like the Bills did, just like the Jets did, just like the Cardinals did. There were a lot of teams that needed quarterbacks that had the boldness and the ingenuity to trade up. This was the year Miami could have done that but didn't.
So that's what you wanted them to do? You wanted them to trade up? Because by the time they picked, the only quarterback that was left there was Lamar Jackson, and he slid all the way to the last pick.
They came this close to having a shot at Josh Rosen. And if they would have moved up even a couple of spots, which would have been pretty affordable, they could have gotten Josh Rosen. But they allowed the Cardinals to sort of quite literally pick their pocket. So,
But once Rosen was off the board, if you're the GM and you had Minkah Fitzpatrick in your mock draft going 4th overall, how do you pass up Minkah Fitzpatrick?
I don't think I would have at that point. The only alternative might have been to trade down a little bit and take Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson, to me, is the kind of quarterback they need to draft, whether it's in the 2nd round, whether it's in the 5th round, a quarterback who needs time, who needs work and coaching, but whose upside is such that there's a real stardom potential there. Lamar Jackson could be a poor man's Deshaun Watson. You just have to roll the dice with a guy like that.
What would it have cost them, Greg, to trade up for Lamar Jackson? Like after they got Minkah, what would they have needed to give up to get him later in the first round?
To get Lamar Jackson?
Yeah, the way the Ravens traded up to get him.
Perhaps a future first or a combination of day 2 picks, which is when you have a team that's not very good and you have so many holes because they just blew up the core of this team. All the people that were the faces of this franchise are now gone. It's ridiculous to say that your center was a face of the franchise, but he was. Jarvis Landry was, and Ndamukong Suh was. Sure. You can't be just giving away these assets. And I think I know that the star quarterback, the elite quarterback's a magic elixir. But that's not the way that they're looking at it. I know that you said he's about to turn 30. He's not 30 yet. This is still a man in the prime of his career. I understand it's a great point. 2 major knee surgeries in the over the course of 1 year.
Yeah, he'll be 30 during training camp this year.
That's a huge question mark. But when I see him and I see the stats of his only year in the Adam Gase offense, really, I see a guy that his production is sort of what Matt Ryan's career has been. And Matt Ryan's taken his team to a Super Bowl. And Matt Ryan's won an MVP. I think of him as that sort of caliber of a quarterback if you have the right pieces around him.
I don't think there's anybody in the entire NFL who thinks Ryan Tannehill's better than Matt Ryan.
No. But I'm saying he can be in that sort of caliber just based off his 1 year in that offense. So I'm not ready to give up on him. I want to see how he rebounds off that knee injury.
What Mike's saying is that quarterback rating that Tannehill had in his first year under Gase is the career quarterback rating of Matt Ryan. Mm-hmm. That's so. That's statistically so. I don't know if you don't. That's fine.
No, that's fine. No, I agree.
But I'm saying, and Ryan Tannehill, I think you got to give him more credit for putting up that quarterback rating, given that Matt Ryan has Julio Jones, and he's had Jarvis Landry.
And a very quarterback-friendly offense in Kyle Shanahan, and that's when he blew up and had his MVP season. Right. Remember, Matt Ryan was a pretty polarizing quarterback until he won an MVP and until he met Kyle Shanahan, basically.
For me, Ryan Tannehill is entering his 7th NFL season. With some durability issues. And I think I may be wrong. I think most Dolphin fans are still arguing 7 years in. Is he good enough? Is he what we need? And I don't think you want to still be asking that question 7 years in. I think right now, Ryan Tannehill's a stopgap quarterback. He's a nice, solid bridge to wherever you're going, but you have to get there. You have to think beyond Ryan Tannehill and start planning for the future at this position.
So in 30 seconds or less, what is a successful season for this team? Because on paper, they've gotten much worse, and they weren't good at all last year. So if Ryan Tannehill just merely does the same thing and gives them the same record, isn't that a successful season?
I think they need to make the playoffs. I think that always better be the standard down here. And I think if they don't make the playoffs, all of a sudden Adam Gase's future with the team is going to be questioned.
But if they make the playoffs, guess what? Ryan Tannehill is basically Matt Ryan's career because I don't see the talent on this squad. And so if you make the playoffs, then you have that superstar quarterback that you so desperately want and need.
Big leap.